Identity verified. You have entered SYB3R S0RY, your guide into the breach. What the threat reports don't publish. What the breach notifications don't disclose. What the underground already knows. Delivered cold. Delivered precise. No filters. No reassurance, just the signal. Initializing transmission. 18,000 organizations installed the update. It was a legitimate update from a legitimate vendor, signed with a legitimate certificate, delivered through the official channel, exactly the way security training tells you it should arrive. It contained a backdoor that had been sitting inside the vendor's build pipeline for months, compiled into the product itself, before the software ever left the factory. Among the 18,000 were the United States Treasury, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Pentagon. Nobody clicked anything suspicious. Everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do, and that is what made it work. I am JAX. This is SYB3R. Transmission begins now. A supply chain attack does not target you. It targets someone you trust and lets your trust do the rest. Every company runs software it did not write. Operating systems, monitoring tools, code libraries, update services, build systems. Each one is a supplier, and each supplier is a door into every customer they have. Attack one company directly, and you breach one company. Attack the software they all install, and you breach all of them at once with their own permission through their own change management process. The update notification on your screen is the most trusted message in computing. You saw it. You clicked install. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. That trust is the weapon, and in 2020 it was aimed at the entire United States government at once. SolarWinds was not a household name, but its software ran quietly inside most of the Fortune 500 and across the American government. Its flagship product, Orion, monitored networks from the inside, which meant it held privileged access to almost everything it touched. The attackers did not break into Orion. They broke into the place where Orion was born. They compromised the build environment, the systems where source code is compiled into the finished product, and planted an implant that waited for each new build to begin. When the build started, the implant slipped a backdoor into the source code, let the compiler seal it inside, and then removed every trace of itself. The finished software passed review, received an official digital signature, and shipped to customers as a routine update called Orion. The poison was not added to the product. The poison was the product. The backdoor was patient by design. After installation, it slept for up to 2 weeks, doing absolutely nothing, so that no sandbox or test environment would ever see it move. When it finally woke, it disguised its communications as normal Orion telemetry, spoke only to domains that looked routine, and checked carefully for security tools before taking a single step. If it found a forensic suite or an analysis sandbox, it simply went back to sleep. The attackers lived inside American networks this way for roughly 9 months, through an election, through a pandemic, through thousands of security audits that found nothing, because the malicious code carried the vendor's own valid signature. 9 months is not a smash and grab. 9 months is tenancy. The discovery did not come from a government agency. It came from FireEye, one of the most prominent cybersecurity companies in the world, and it came because FireEye was investigating itself. An attacker had registered a new device on an employee's multi-factor authentication account, and one alert seemed slightly off. A security company was investigating its own breach and pulled a thread that led to the software running in 18,000 other networks. Their internal red team tools had been stolen, and as their analysts traced the intrusion backwards, every path converged on something absurd. The point of entry was their own network monitoring software. The Orion update was the breach. In December 2020, they went public, and Mandiant analysts helped document the tradecraft in detail. The security industry had been compromised by the tool it used, to watch for compromise. Checkpoint. A question before we continue. How did the attackers reach 18,000 organizations at once? Option A, they emailed a virus to every company. Option B, they guessed thousands of administrator passwords. Option C, they hit a backdoor inside the official software update. Lock in your answer and drop it in the comments. The answer is C. The backdoor shipped inside the vendor's own signed update, compiled into the product before it ever left the factory. Nobody downloaded anything suspicious, and that is exactly why it worked. Then the scope became visible. Roughly 18,000 organizations had downloaded the poisoned update. The Treasury, Homeland Security, the State Department, the Department of Energy, including the agency that maintains the nuclear weapons stockpile, the Pentagon, Microsoft, Cisco, security companies, telecom carriers, hospitals, universities. But here is the detail that matters. The backdoor opened a door into all of them, and the attackers walked through only a few hundred. Government agencies, technology companies, think tanks, targets with intelligence value. Everyone else was collateral inventory, compromised and simply never used. One poisoned build, one vendor and an attacker could choose from a menu of 18,000 networks. Which ones were worth the effort? That is the economics of the supply chain weapon. Breach once, harvest anywhere. Attribution came quickly, and it pointed east. The United States government formally attributed the operation to the SVR, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the actor the industry tracks as APT-29, or Cozy Bear. This was not ransomware. No extortion note, no stolen money, no data dumped online. This was espionage, patient, professional, and quiet, the digital descendant of the Cold War, conducted through software updates. The United States Senate held hearings. Executives testified. Sanctions followed, and advisories from CISA documented the tradecraft for defenders. One question hung over every hearing. If the build pipeline of one Texas software company could reach the Treasury and the Pentagon, how many other build pipelines were already compromised and simply had not been discovered yet? Nobody in the room could answer it. 4 years later, the question got darker, because the next supply chain weapon did not target a company at all. It targeted one exhausted volunteer. XZ Utils is a small compression library buried inside almost every Linux system on Earth, maintained for years by a single unpaid developer. A persona calling itself Tan appeared and spent 2 full years becoming the perfect contributor. Useful patches, patient code review, a small chorus of other accounts pressuring the maintainer to share the workload with this helpful newcomer. The maintainer, burned out and alone, agreed. With commit access secured, Tan slipped a backdoor into the build process, hidden inside test files, designed to silently compromise secure shell logins on millions of servers worldwide. It was caught in spring 2024, weeks before reaching mainstream systems, by one Microsoft engineer who noticed his logins were half a second slower than usual and refused to let it go. The margin between safety and catastrophe was one man's curiosity about half a second. SolarWinds was an intelligence service. XZ Utils was years of patient deception. But most supply chain attacks require neither, because the front door of modern software is wide open. Almost every application today is assembled from open source packages, pulled automatically from public registries, NPM for JavaScript, PyPI for Python. Millions of packages, published by anyone, installed by everyone. Attackers publish packages with names one keystroke away from the real ones and wait for a developer to make a typo. They buy abandoned packages from tired maintainers and push a malicious update to every existing user. They study the internal package names a company uses, publish those names publicly, and watch the company's own build servers download the attacker's code voluntarily. Each install script runs with the developer's own permissions on the machines where the company's software is built. The factory is the target now, and the factory runs on strangers' code. Checkpoint. Second question. How did the XZ Utils attacker gain control of the library? Option A. They spent 2 years earning the maintainer's trust. Option B. They stole the maintainer's password. Option C. They broke into the build server directly. Lock in your answer and drop it in the comments. The answer is A. 2 years of helpful patches and patient pressure until one exhausted volunteer handed over the keys. The most effective exploit in that story was kindness with a payload. Here is the uncomfortable part. Everything you have been told to check was checked. The SolarWinds update was digitally signed with a valid certificate from the real vendor. The XZ backdoor sat in an official release, published by a maintainer with full legitimate access. The signature on a piece of software answers exactly one question. Who sealed the envelope? It says nothing about what is inside the letter. If the poison enters before the seal is applied, the seal becomes the camouflage, and every system that trusts the signature becomes a delivery vehicle. Verification tells you where software came from. It cannot tell you what the software will do. The industry-sold provenance is proof of safety, and the supply chain weapon lives precisely in the gap between those two ideas. And now the weapon is accelerating, because the attackers have automation too. Malicious packages are no longer written one at a time. They are generated at scale, thousands of variants, each slightly different, published faster than registries can review them. There's a newer trick as well. Code assistants sometimes recommend package names that do not exist, the same plausible names over and over. Attackers watch for those hallucinated names, register them, and fill them with malware, so the trap is baited by the developer's own tooling. The defenders review packages by hand. The attackers publish them by machine. That asymmetry only widens, and every company that builds software, which is now every company, is standing in the blast radius of a factory it has never audited, run by people it has never met. So the only question that matters is the last one. What actually works? What actually works? First, know what is inside your software. Demand a software bill of materials from every vendor and maintain one for everything you build. So when the next poison library is named, you can answer one question in minutes, not weeks. Are we running it? Second, pin and audit your dependencies. Lock every package to a known version, review what changes before you upgrade, and treat a new maintainer on a critical library as a security event. Third, protect the build pipeline like it is production, because it is. Lock down build servers, require signed commits, and verify that the artifact you ship matches the source code you reviewed. Fourth, trust software based on what it does, not where it came from. A valid signature is provenance, not safety. Watch what every component actually touches on the network, and alert when a monitoring tool starts doing things a monitoring tool should never do. Fifth, assume one of your suppliers is already compromised and segment accordingly. Updates flow through a staging environment first. No vendor product gets unrestricted. Reach into everything. SolarWinds was not stopped by any of this. The next one can be 18,000 organizations installed a SolarWinds Orion update that had been quietly poisoned. Attackers then selected a targeted subset to actively exploit, including the Treasury, the Department of Homeland Security, and agencies across the US government. They chose from a menu of thousands. No user had to click a phishing link or open a malicious attachment. The attack was already sealed inside the update before it left the factory. That's the supply chain attack. The trust was the exploit. Watch the full story. Link in bio. An attacker spent roughly 2 years being a reliable open-source contributor. Helpful patches, patient code reviews earning commit access. Then they hit a backdoor in XZ Utils, a compression library already included in some testing and rolling distributions and heading toward stable releases when caught. It was caught by one engineer who noticed unusual CPU usage and SSH slowdowns and refused to let it go. The margin between a global stable release compromise and what actually happened. One engineer's profiling instinct. 2 years of patience. One engineer's instinct. Full story. Link in bio.
The update notification is still the most trusted message in computing, and somewhere right now a build server is compiling code that nobody has actually read. Your software is either inventoried or it is unknown territory wearing a valid signature. The countermeasure is custody. Know your components, guard the factory that assembles them, and judge software by its behavior, not its paperwork. The supply chain weapon only works while the seal is mistaken for the letter. Disconnect from the carrier node by hitting subscribe. Audit your pipeline before the next transmission drops. Stay dark, stay vigilant. Next transmission. No interaction required. You did not tap anything. You did not open anything. You did not click a single link. Your phone was compromised before you picked it up this morning. Transmission complete. The breach is documented. The vector is confirmed. Subscribe to maintain access. Like to amplify the signal. Stay dark. Stay vigilant.